Look, Instagram has changed significantly over the past 12 months. Let's talk about what's actually working on Instagram right now for business owners and creators like yourself. By the way, this video is sponsored by ManyChat, more on them later. All right, let's just dive in. By the way, my name's Jade. I always forget to introduce myself. It's very rude of me. We're going to talk about one strategy that you've potentially seen a lot of big creators use on Instagram, and maybe you've sat back and wondered, how are they actually going about that?
How do I do that?
The strategy is to use automations to drive your engagement, grow your audience, and even do things like grow your email list too. If you don't know what I mean by automations, let me just paint a picture for you. Let's imagine you're scrolling through Instagram one fine day and your favorite content creator pops up and they're talking about a new camera that they've purchased. And in that piece of content, they say, comment the word camera to get a direct link to purchase the camera that they're using, right? So then you end up seeing thousands of comments under that post, including yours. And when you comment the word camera, you also get a link directly to your DMs. Now, you might leave this interaction feeling pretty good about yourself because you're like, this was great. Someone recommended a camera to me. I didn't have to go to their link in bio to try and find the link to the camera. I just got the direct link sent directly to my inbox and it meant that I was able to purchase the camera easily. Amazing. But let's think about what that's doing for the creator who posted that piece of content. Because now that they've shared that post and received all of these comments, Instagram's algorithm has now picked up that post and pushed it out to more people because they have received so many comments. Instagram's algorithm is constantly looking for content which is being well received by their audience, and having loads of comments under your content is a clear sign to the algorithm that your audience is loving your content. This is a super effective strategy that is absolutely flying on Instagram at the moment. I'm literally in the process of scheduling multiple different posts that's going to be using this exact strategy to improve the performance of my content. If you're wondering how these creators actually go about doing this, they're using a tool called ManyChat. One of the most important things you need to know about ManyChat is that ManyChat is approved by Meta. Meta own Instagram, which means that ManyChat is an approved third-party app. This is vital information because I will never come to you and talk about a product or a service that has not been approved by Instagram, especially when it comes to automations. If you're going to use a third-party application that's going to allow you to automatically do anything, let alone message people, it has to be approved by Instagram and Meta to ensure that you don't end up in their bad books and you end up being penalized, right? Like, no one's got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
ManyChat is approved by Meta though, and it's transforming how brands and creators sell, promote, and launch on Instagram. So when you use ManyChat, you're able to turn any post that you share on Instagram into a dynamic conversation starter. So whether it's the example that I just used, where maybe you're talking about a product or a service and you let your audience comment a word below and they get a link directly to that product or service, or maybe you want to use ManyChat to increase your signups to your email list. You may potentially want to use ManyChat as a way to move conversations to your DMs so that you can have deeper convos with your audience and potentially convert them into paying customers. Regardless of your objectives, you will be able to utilize ManyChat as a way to boost the performance of your content and do a lot more. And you can use ManyChat for free for up to 1,000 contacts. And if you want to get the pro version, the prices start at $15 per month. And also, let's be honest, if you're clicking on this video because you're trying to figure out what's working on Instagram at the moment, this one stat is going to be all you need in order to go and check out ManyChat. Your standard click-through rate when you include a link in your link in bio is 1%, and the average click-through rate when you use ManyChat is 46%. 1% to 46%. Anyway, I'm going to put a link below because I'm sure you're going to want to check it out. And let's move on to the next thing that's working on Instagram at the moment. All right, so the next thing that's working on Instagram at the moment is more to do with like the metrics that are working. So the units of measurement that are currently being favored by the Instagram gods. Previously, we were not really aware of which metric was actually the most valuable. Like, was it views? Was it watch time? Was it saves? Was it shares? Like, we weren't completely certain. We could guess based on data, but we didn't know for sure. However, things have changed because Instagram have come out and made it very clear that there are two metrics that are the most valuable in their eyes. The first is sends and the second are views. When it comes to sends, we're referring to you uploading a piece of content and your audience sending or sharing that with their friends, whether it's on their stories or privately in like a group that they've got on Instagram. It doesn't really matter. As long as your content is being distributed by your audience, Instagram will look upon your content favorably if that's what's happening. When it comes to views, this is a super relevant. This is fresh off the press, hot off the press. hot off the press. It's hot off the press. Instagram have very recently made some updates to your insights page, where now the way in which Instagram will communicate how many people have seen your content is by telling you how many views your content has. Previously, it was reach, and sometimes it would change depending on the format, whether it was reel or a photo or a carousel. That's all changing. They're standardizing everything so that for all of your different pieces of content, you should be able to clearly see in your insights how many views your content gets. Alongside this change came confirmation from Instagram that views are one of the most valuable metrics that you can pay attention to when it comes to the performance of your content. So that means that what's working right now on Instagram is optimizing your content for sends or shares, and also optimizing it for views. Okay, this is just a quick one that I think I've mentioned in another video, but like every time I use this hack, it just works so well. So I'm just going to continuously say it until every single person who watches my videos uses this hack. We all know, okay, maybe we all don't know this. Most of us, or a lot of us, know that when Instagram releases a new feature, it is the best time for you to use it. Because if you use a feature that's new, Instagram is purposely going to push your content out because it's trying to get other people to use that feature, right? That is even more true when it comes to story stickers. Instagram will release a new story sticker, I would say every month, every other month at the moment. Like, it's pretty frequent. When you use a new story sticker, your stories will potentially reach 10 times more people than they reached the day before. An example of a sticker that's working right now, even though it's not super, super new, but it's still kind of new, is the Add Yours sticker. If you use the Add Yours sticker on your story, right? I'll put an example on the screen right now. All of your stories for that day will reach significantly more people than it usually does. You might also notice that when you interact with stories that have the Add Yours sticker on there, the amount of stories that you then see from that point on that include the Add Yours sticker increases. It's almost as if the story algorithm will be like, oh, you liked one of these stories that had this sticker on. I'm just going to show you more and more stories will have this sticker on now, which from our perspective, you and I, as the creators, as the business owners, that is great news for us, because it means that when we use the Add Yours sticker, our story is being grouped with all these other ones, which means that more people are going to potentially see it. Catch my drift? Do you see where I'm coming on? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Let's keep it moving. All right, the next tip isn't a new one. This is like a marketing rule, but I do feel like it has never been more true than it currently is right now. This is to focus on triggering some kind of emotion from your audience through your content. The greater or the deeper of the emotion that you trigger, the more likely your content is to perform and potentially even go viral. That is a lot of the theory that surrounds like virality and how content actually goes viral is heavily focused on the emotions that viral content can evoke. So these emotions can be broken down into a few different categories. For example, depending on who you are, you might consider there to be 7 different emotions that you might be able to trigger for your content. These emotions are trust, fear, surprise, anticipation, disgust, I'm trying to remember them, sadness, and joy. I almost remembered all 7. I had to check, but 5 out of 7, not bad. Now, if you're able to create content that surprises your audience, you best believe that that content will be shared, and you best believe that Instagram will probably push it out to more people, and it has a far greater chance of it going viral versus you creating content which makes people feel a bit lukewarm and doesn't necessarily make them feel any type of way at all, right? This is something that's especially interesting for my fellow educational content creators out there, because how often do you create content which makes people scared or surprised or even joyful? Like, that doesn't happen so often, which means that our type of content is having to change ever so slightly on Instagram, where it has to be a lot more emotion led in addition to being educational in order for us to get that reaction from our audience. This is also where rage bait has just flourished. Do you guys know about rage bait? It's literally like one of my least favorite things about social media. It's when people create content that they don't even agree with or believe in. They're simply doing it because they know it's going to get a reaction. They know it's going to trigger sadness or disgust or fear. So therefore, that is their main motivation behind creating it. It is more prevalent in like the comment section on TikTok, for example, when people just comment things and you're like, you don't even believe that. You're just trying to make people angry. Oh, I just think it's like tacky. I think it's tacky. I think it's lazy, and I don't like it. But anyway, that is why that is thriving so much online at the moment, because this slight shift towards creating content that sparks an emotion has been so effective for people. And it is the lazy emotion. The lazy emotion is to make people disgusted. Like, anyone can come up with something that's going to make people disgusted. Do you know what I mean? The more challenging task is to create content that makes people joyful, but it's also far more rewarding. So pick your hard, you know? The next thing that's working is BTS. BTS stands for behind the scenes. Oh my God, this is thriving on Instagram right now. It's just basically referring to content where you are literally bringing people behind the scenes of your day. So instead of only focusing on the output, so let's say, for example, you are a fashion creator and you are only sharing content of the finished outfit, BTS would be you bringing people behind the scenes of how you styled that outfit, of your shopping trips, of you getting the clothes tailored. Like, that would be the BTS version. This is especially thriving when it comes to like business owners and brands. And I talk about this a lot on like my more business owner focused content, so I won't dive into it today. But essentially, this content trend is just referring to you showing people more of the behind the scenes of your life. One way that I'm doing this, for example, is I've started sharing my daily schedules again, which is when I share a screenshot of my Google Calendar, which clearly breaks down every single thing that I have to do that day in order to keep my business afloat and running, right? That allows you guys to see what goes into me creating the end product. So you're not just seeing this video as the end product, you're also seeing what goes into it. This brings me on to the next thing that's working. That might sound like an old trend, but it's just that it took a while for it to really flourish on Instagram. And that is like your raw, more authentic, unedited content. That has been a thing on TikTok for years, but it is slowly starting to make its way to Instagram, which was previously all about aesthetics, overly edited, highly produced content. A really important caveat to keep in mind here is that for some people, the heavily produced stuff will always work for them. And just because the raw, unedited stuff is working for many people doesn't mean that you now need to ditch your entire brand identity and brand persona of creating these like amazingly well edited videos and graphics and all that stuff. Don't do that. This is just for people who are more inclined to your more raw, authentic content. That is now doing well on Instagram. A really good example of a format of this is like your FaceTime content, which is literally what it sounds like. It's when you get your phone up and you speak to that camera lens as if you're speaking to your mate on FaceTime. That content does well on Instagram now. So that hopefully is good news for a lot of people. Last but certainly not least, and one that I am personally very excited about, is that carousels are making a comeback, guys. They're on their way back. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was once a time where people would report that their carousels wouldn't even reach the explore page. Like that once happened to some people. That's how low down carousels were once ranked in the algorithm. Counter to that, there was also once a time where carousels were absolute king, and that is what thrived on Instagram, and that was the thing that helped you go viral. We have now gone to a point where they're somewhere in between. Carousels are performing better for a lot of people across the board. I will say that they still tend to perform better for your existing audience versus helping you go viral, but it can do both now. Like you can upload a great carousel and it can help you grow and attract your audience. The way in which carousels were presented are slightly different. We still do have carousels which have graphics performing well. Like my separate brand, The Creator Project, uploads a lot of educational carousel graphics and that performs well for that platform. However, for a lot of personal brands, people are starting to get a bit creative with the way in which they produce and share their carousel content. I'll put an example of some of the carousels that I've recently been sharing on my Instagram, which I am obsessed with. How cool do these look? Oh, I've just fallen back in love with it. And I'm so glad that they're actually performing well, so that there's a rationale behind me now sharing more of these. But do you see how they've changed slightly? How we're now incorporating more of our own photos and annotating our carousels as a way to bring more of ourselves into our content and it not be purely graphic led. But that's just one example. And honestly, guys, I think the reason why they're coming back is because TikTok reinvented the carousel. They made it cool, they made it fun again, and now that's carrying over to Instagram too. So TikTok really are the trendsetters, I think, is the main thing we can learn from today's video. Regardless, if you're someone who's naturally inclined to create a carousel and you haven't been in a while, it's great news, babe. Get that carousel out. It's time to start posting again. Oh, and importantly, I almost forgot to say this, Instagram have officially increased the amount of frames in your carousel to 20 versus the 10 that they previously had. So that's great news. And also another reason why Instagram carousels can sometimes work better for people, especially now, is because it gives you multiple opportunities for you to engage your audience. Because if I upload a carousel and you missed my front page of my carousel, don't fret, because the next time you're on Instagram, you're going to see the second slide. Didn't see that one? Fine. Next time you're on Instagram, you're going to see the third slide, and maybe it's third slide lucky and you're like, oh, what's this? And then you end up looking at and consuming the entire carousel. So it's giving you multiple opportunities for you to hook your audience in. So pay attention to each of those slides because each of them are very important. Okay, my loves, that's what's working on Instagram at the moment. Let me know in the comment section what's working for you. Like, let's all share some tips. Let's learn from each other. Do not forget that you can increase your engagement, your views, and your sales with automations using ManyChat. Head to the link in my description to get started. If you feel like hanging around, I recommend watching this video. It's actually a different kind of video for me. I basically break down the ways that you can grow on Instagram according to Instagram. So myself and my team scoured the web to find all of the tips that Instagram have actually shared directly from them, and we've collated them into one video so that you guys can consume them with ease. You are welcome. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I can't wait to see you in my next video.